Hello, welcome to AdAge 20-Minute Take. I'm John Dioso. I'm the editor of AdAge Studio 30. I'm glad to be joined today by Missy Schnurstein, who's the head of native sales for Verizon Media. AdAge 20-Minute Take is a series that we talk to buyers and marketers about what to do and how to adjust in the changing climate. So I'm very pleased to be joined by Missy today. Hi, Missy. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
It's great to see you. So before we dive into the subject, just can you tell us a little bit about Verizon Media and what you do there?
Yes, so Verizon Media is one of three business units that we have at Verizon. The other two are the Verizon Business Group and the Verizon Consumer Group. So Verizon Media, we are a media and ad tech platform. We also are a publisher of over 30 well-known brands like Yahoo Finance, News, Sports, HuffPo, TechCrunch, Xbox, and many more. So I lead native sales and strategy for Verizon Media. So I'm focused on driving native revenue growth for North America. Native ads, just to clarify, because I think sometimes there's different interpretations of what that may mean or different understandings. Native ads are ads that sit within the content that is relevant to the content around it, which is why it performs so well. I think most of you think of ads as social. So think about your Instagram feed and the ads that you see in your Instagram feed. But there's also this very large portion of native ads that sit within premium curated content. And that's what we do at Verizon Media. And we also built our platform around mobile. So you'll see most ads within a content stream in mobile are actually native.
Great. So, just to put things in context, which is the title of the series, actually, the title of this episode today is Marketing in Context. But to place things in the context that we're living in, it's, to say that we're living in challenging times would be a gross understatement. Just where we are today, right now in the country, we've reached 85,000 people have died. Unemployment has gone through the roof. I think the numbers came out today since March, since the shutdown started, 36.5 million people are on unemployment. So people are hurting, brands are hurting. And the thing is that we are starting to slowly reopen as a society, and businesses are starting to reopen. Brands have had to survive through this. Brands have had to navigate their way through this difficult time. And now that we're reopening society, things are changing, but they're not going to be the same everywhere, wherever we may be in the country. So what have you been seeing? What lessons can brands learn from what you've seen so far?
Well, I think the biggest lesson is to make sure that brands are out there and they're part of the conversation. Don't be afraid of the news that's out there. You need to be part of the conversation because you have to be a leader. We've done research that shows that 64% of consumers expect their brands to be advertising. They want a sense of normalcy. They want relevant information, that what the brand is going to be doing to help them through the crisis, whether that's preventing spread or helping their own communities. And so what's really interesting is I think the brands that are being really successful have cause-related messaging. It's been really impressive to see how brands have pivoted so successfully. And so brands that are really leaning into their guiding principles, like brands that have a really genuine and true North Star as a company, are doubling down on that stance. And they're supporting initiatives and causes that are making a really positive impact on the people who need it most. And that's what we want to hear right now. I would say now is not a time for a brand to come out with a new North Star, unless they're going to stay true to that North Star as they go along. It really needs to be genuine and something that they can connect with their consumers moving forward. One example that I'll throw out is actually very close to home. I think Verizon's done a really phenomenal job at staying authentic and doing this and doubling down on our mission. So the mission of Verizon is to create networks that move the world forward. And they've been doubling down on that. And we've done a number of really cool initiatives. We have this Pay It Forward series. It's like a weekly concert series to benefit small businesses that are really hurting right now. And so it's a few times a week, actually, Chance the Rapper's tonight, which is super cool. So you can find that on Yahoo. Sorry for the slight plug, but Chance is really cool. But we're also doing really important things like helping healthcare organizations when it comes to mental health awareness. We gave $10 million to the World Health Organization, the CDC for US and UK help there. And I feel like we're coming up with new ones every day. 2 hours ago, we announced that we're doing a commencement series for 2020 graduates. There's some really cool commencement speakers on a Friday series coming up. Bill Clinton is one of them, which also made me really excited. And then one other thing, and this is where I think companies can learn from this, and it's not just about things that you can do nationally or internationally. It's hitting your consumers in certain markets. So this is literally this one's hitting me literally across the street from my house. I was so excited, it made me cry when Verizon announced that we were going to provide the networking and connectivity for the Los Angeles Unified School District. So the LA Unified School District is actually the second largest school district in the country. So there's hundreds of thousands of kids in the school system. So it spans all walks of life, right? And across this very large city, there are tens of thousands of kids who are homeless, many more living in poverty. And right now it's so important that we keep kids, you give them access to distance learning. We have to be able to make sure that kids stay on top of their learning, continue their education. So when we announced that, I'm looking out my window right now across the street. I live across the street from LA Unified Elementary School, and that's my community. And so those are the types of things that companies need to do, and it just makes you feel connected to the brand and believe in them and appreciate the leadership.
So when you mentioned before, you talked about brands need to stay authentic and they need to not search with, they need to go what their true North Star is, and they shouldn't go for a new one. What brands do you think are doing that, are doing a good job of doing that and reaching their customers in the best way?
There are a lot of brands doing it really well. And what's been interesting to me is to watch the D2C space, because if you think about these D2C companies already have their entire relationship is with the consumer directly. So they've been working really hard. Many of them are working hard to build that brand and have a strong North Star. And I've been really impressed with a few. One is Allbirds. They're a great example of a brand staying true to their core and actually supporting the healthcare community. So anyone that knows what it's like to have a job where you're on your feet for 8 to 10 plus hours a day, it hurts. And our healthcare workers are working very hard. Allbirds has really comfortable shoes, and they're great quality shoes. And so they're doing this like buy one, get one, but instead of buying one, get one for yourself, it's you buy a pair of Allbirds and then they donate a pair to healthcare workers. That's amazing. And I want to support that. And then another really awesome example I would say is Zappos. And I know you guys wrote about this, and that's how I actually found out about it. Zappos is known for their customer service. Anyone who's ever dealt with Zappos customer service, that's been their North Star for forever.
You can return something 2 years after you buy something with Zappos.
They're amazing, and they're delightful to deal with. And I've been a big Zappos fan for as long as they've been in existence because of this. And they did the coolest thing. So their customer service center shifted to customer service for anything. So because they just want to help people. And so whether you're calling to help on your shoes, or finding out where can I get like 10-pound weights, or how do I make my own mask? And they actually have had equipment requests come in from Mount Sinai. I mean, that is amazing. So I think what it comes down to is brands have to have the right tone and the right sentiment so they can continue to build that relationship with the consumer. And that's, again, why I think D2C has been really leading the way here. But it's not just that. One more example I want to share out with you about tone and sentiment. It's also having the right sense of humor about what you do. And Burger King, which is, by the way, one of my favorite brands and probably saved me from many a night in college. I love a Whopper, and their tagline is the home of the Whopper. So they very quickly pivoted to stay home of the Whopper, and then launched a whole series of really awesome things, like a campaign around the new slogan. They were saluting people who are vulnerable during this time, are essential workers who are keeping the country running. They provided instructions on how to make a Whopper at home, which I am super grateful for. They pivoted to delivery. And then they also donated like 250,000 sandwiches to healthcare workers. So they did so much and did it with a light heart, and really in genuineness that is great leadership again. So when you're associating your brand with goodness and how you're helping people, then that's good for business.
All right, let me just introduce anybody who's joined us a little bit after we started. I'm John Dioso, and this is AdAge 20-Minute Take. We're here with Missy Schnurstein from Verizon Media. I just want to shout out a few people who've joined us. We've got Charles and Nasib B and Mona and Rudy. Thanks for joining us, guys. And the next question, which comes from Lindsay on LinkedIn, is so let's say beyond messaging and creative, because we started talking a little bit about that before. Which brands have you seen pivoting successfully?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, because it's not just messaging creative. And I think what's been really interesting and most exciting for me during this time is seeing the creativity from brands. So the brands that have been successful have been nimble and making very quick adjustments, not to just their marketing strategy, but to actually their enterprise level strategy. What is their business strategy? So some examples would be L'Oreal very quickly pivoting to making hand sanitizer because there wasn't enough. Nike making face shields. These companies donating to help relief funds. I think Nike did something really cool where they launched this like living room cup fitness challenge. So just trying to keep people engaged, reach out to them. Another example of a company that I think did a really great job at pivoting their enterprise level strategy is Uber. So obviously, the nation came to a screeching halt in May and March, and that means a lot of folks weren't really sure what to do. Uber, who may have seen some challenges with their main driving business, very quickly recognized that there was a nationwide food shortage, right? Supply chains needed help. We had major supply chain issues. And so they very quickly doubled down on Uber Freight, and they helped companies that were making 50,000 masks a day and needed to get them out because we need to get them to healthcare workers. There were transportation and equipment and wholesale companies. Beer, wine, and liquor stores needed to get their goods out. Pharmaceutical manufacturing. So Uber pivoted. They were on it with Uber Freight. We actually worked with them on the messaging on that, and I thought it was a really cool pivot. So it's not just about your marketing strategy. It's about what are we doing as a business to really help right now.
Another one of the things that we've noticed a lot in the past few weeks and months, actually, is the big shift in consumer behavior since people have been mostly locked at home. So we still have that. We're still going to have a lot of that going forward, depending on where you are in the country. People are starting to emerge, but still some businesses are going to be closed. We're still going to be seeing a lot of people sheltered in place. So what are the changes in consumer behavior that you've seen, and how has it developed over the time?
Well, obviously there's a lot more consumption of things at home. So you see things like gaming skyrocketing, streaming skyrocketing. So what's really important right now is that advertisers brands are testing different channels. So it's important to stay in front of consumers. And while we see CTV up, for example, I think CTV was up actually 60% from March to April, which is crazy. And mobile too. Mobile is up 40%, which is mostly native formats. So there's this really wonderful opportunity to experiment cross-screen, making sure that while you're watching TV, I know I've been doing this for years. I've been an early adopter on this, but this has skyrocketed recently while people are either in their living room playing on consoles with their games or watching streaming TV, and they're on their phones and they're busy on their phones. So you need to be able to reach people at the same time. You want to reach people cross screen. So taking advantage of CTV, gaming, things like Xbox is really important. And I think another thing is e-commerce. We see how D2C companies have been really successful. I think e-commerce is very rapidly changing, and brands need to keep up. I think one really cool example is PepsiCo. So this is a giant CPG company, and they have lots of really great brands like Gatorade, Quaker, Doritos, Tostitos, and they were smart, and they went for the D2C route, and they very quickly created two new D2C sites, pantryshop.com and snacks.com, so they could really start to create that direct relationship with the consumer and get it out directly to consumers. So I think experimenting within e-commerce is also really important, and can just further that relationship with customers.
Now, since you're the expert at Verizon Media and native ads, and this is for the advertising community, is there any advice that you can give for anybody who hasn't been working or dealing with native ads, who are interested in going in that direction?
Yes. Two things. One now is, I think we know that consumption is up, so supply is up everywhere, right? And there's many advertisers that are just trying to figure out what they're doing with their business strategies, or trying to recreate their creative, or they're just testing the waters and waiting. So there's not as much activity in the entire advertising ecosystem. So it's really a perfect time to test and iterate. Native is always a great format to test and iterate with, because you can do anything within the ad format itself, which leads me to another point about native, is that many people really think of native as, they link it to social. It's often just thought of as a performance vehicle for driving transactions, and it is really amazing at that. But you have this beautiful canvas on your phone that takes over your screen. You can do anything within that. It's also a great brand tool. So I think it's really important that people think full funnel and think of native as that opportunity to play efficiently right now, because you need to be having that conversation with your consumers. You need to be in front of them. You need to be a leader. And then you can actually do that within native. It's not just about performance, but it does drive amazing performance. I mean, native has 11x click-through rates of normal display. So you can do some very efficient branding that way.
Are there any specific tools that you'd recommend that people look at for using native ads?
Yeah, the ad itself. So it's especially it's not just native where I think the really important tool is within the ad, but right now the best tool is what you can do in the ad. So I mentioned that I think of the ad as basically a blank canvas. Anything you want to do within that. So the ad actually becomes a utility itself. And you want it to be a utility for your consumers. You want to reduce past the purchase. You want to help them out. You want to make life as easy as possible for your consumers right now. So you can actually do this within the ad. So be thinking about, creative experiences that you can create for them that will drive conversion. So one example would be Pottery Barn, and everybody is trying to help. And I love this. All the furniture companies are really, how can we help you set up your home office right now? And you can do augmented reality within a mobile ad, for example, and I can just take my phone and I can, within the ad itself, see what a desk looks like, or a potted plant looks like, or a desk chair looks like in my office. I can do it right now. So that is something that really helps, especially in this environment where everything needs to be contactless. You have that opportunity. So it's really up to you to just experiment. I think some other things that are really important tools within the ad are your messaging. So hitting that contact-free delivery, free shipping, now curbside pickup, adding deals to your mobile wallet. So I know that sounds also really daunting, because I'm also saying you need to be nimble and people need to, act quickly and test quickly. But many companies do this. We do this. We have an in-house creative team, our act team, that we actually can do creative for the brand, and do all this work. And you can do it across screens. So this is, again, like I said, it's not just native. You can do this in display, CTV, early 5G testing, and all of that. So there's really no excuse not to just to try all the different tools within the ad.
Great. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to just take a little break here, take a little breather. They have those little calm commercials that come on TV every once in a while. You take a deep breath for 15 seconds or whatever. So if you've been talking a lot, Missy, so thank you so much for doing this. So I want to just do a little personal question, then we'll get back into the regular Q&A. My first question is that a Peloton behind you?
It is.
Did you get it after the
We're
commercial or before? You swayed by that
long
ad?
before the commercial. Um, yeah, we've had ours for about a year and a half, and it's mostly my husband uses it. He likes, but I actually, speaking of a brand that I think has pivoted really nicely in during this time to help people out with, I think there was a 90-day free trial that a lot of my friends signed up for, and making all these classes available on the app. I love it. I'm a big Peloton fan, so
Great.
yeah.
And obviously you've been using it a lot more since you've been locked at home. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You look amazing. You're in great shape, I'm sure. What is another quick question? What is the one thing that you've learned about yourself during this time that you didn't think was true? Or that just what was the biggest learning taking, we've all changed, I feel like, going through this process, but is there one thing that you could say, I didn't know this about myself? I love pickles, or it's just whatever it is.
Actually enjoying cooking. No, honestly, I think I realized that I'm more vulnerable than I thought. I think and I started to, I think we've all have had some mental strain from spending all day on your screen and being worried about your relatives and your community. And it's been very weighing, and worrying about your kid. And I, I didn't realize, I was like, oh, being down is for other people. I'm a positive person, and I did get down. And I think what it made me realize is I have a little bit more compassion, and also realize that we all can bounce back. And it's life is a roller coaster, and to just, I think, be a little bit more forgiving of myself and others.
All right, so we'll come back to so I think just in line with that, what do you think? What are the lessons? What do you think has changed? As like I said, things had changed so much. We've all changed. What has changed? What do you think has changed for good once we get past this? And we're going to get past this at some point. At some point, we're going to look back and realize everything that we went through. We're in the middle of it now, so it seems like an impossible thing to contemplate. But if you could prognosticate for a second, what do you think will be the thing that will stay? What has changed in the world or in society and in business that is going to just continue after this? What are the learnings, basically?
Well, I can tell you what I really hope stays, which means the opposite, I hope goes away, is that I love the scrappiness and the creativity that we've seen, whether it's so many different companies being creative, friends being creative, our school being creative. I think that the more restrictions that you have placed on you, when normally we're dealing with, especially as marketers, like, I don't have enough budget, or I might not have enough resources, but really having major resource constraints, where even doing business is challenging. I hope we keep the scrappiness and that and the creativity that comes from restrictions, and that we, like, I know my grandmother was a child of the Depression, and so she always was scrappy. And I hope we take that out of this, and remember that, especially as brands, we need to, and companies need to remember to be a leader, be helpful to the world and their consumers, and I hope that we keep these personal connections, and I think brands have the opportunity to keep those personal connections. So I'll say, even though I miss hugging and seeing my family, I miss my parents, I miss my friends, I want to see them, but I actually feel more connected to my community and more aware of what's happening in my community in many ways, because of how creative everyone's been. So I hope we keep that, and maintain those personal connections. So brands, I hope, learn from that as well. Just remember, it's not all about transactions. It's about really being there for your consumers and your community.
Well, I think we've gone a little over 20 minutes, but it's been such a great conversation today, and you were terrific, Missy. So thank you so much for doing this. Again, it's AdAge 20-Minute Take. Missy Schnurstein from Verizon Media. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This
All right.
was fun. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye. Thanks, everybody. All right, good job.